Oh. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayana. Hari Om and good evening from Niagara Falls. Suppose Bhagavan Krishna found out the code to our Zoom class and he took control of hosting this class and said, whatever you say, I'm going to say tathastu. So you can ask for whatever you want. You can pray for whatever you want. And Bhagavan will blanket policy say tata astu, tathastu. What would you ask for? What would you pray for? I think some of us would say sumrityu for our parivar. May our family have a smooth life and a smooth death. Yes? Sumritu. Others would say sarve bhavantu sukhinya. Let everyone be happy. If you think about these prayers about our family or about the people that are across from us, such prayers still imply separation. They still imply Dvaita. If Bhagavan were to appear before us, to manifest before us, and say, you can ask for whatever you want, our prayer should be like Dhruva, like Prahlada, and that is Atma Nivedanam. That my prayer is, you please accept this ego so that there is no Dvaita, there is no separation. Then where is there any discussion about family, any discussion about friends? There is only oneness. Acharya Shankara shares in Vivekji, it takes 1 billion well-lived lifetimes for one to be ready for such a prayer, for such an experience. And the key word there is well-lived, not just lived. We live days, but how many of our days are well-lived? We live years, but how many well-lived years do we experience? Another word for well-lived is swasti. And our Bhagavad Gita course is trying to bring more clarity into what it means to live well so that our prayer becomes the highest prayer to remove any separation. And that clarity brings conviction, that conviction brings confidence. Pujya Swami Chinmaya, his initial purpose was to awaken Hindus to Hinduism. The people who harm Hinduism the most are Hindus. In the same way, the people who hurt ourselves the most are ourselves. But in Advaita, in oneness, such prattling stops. Reviewing what we've studied in chapter 6, the significant portions, all are significant, but some of that. The external process we studied, external process, Bhagavan Krishna lists 10 external processes that are required to get to the internal process, and 2 of them are mat chitta. Mat chitta means to know the self, to know the means to the self. And if there's mat chitta, what naturally will come is mat para, which is to love the self, to love the means to the self. See, in a subjective science, what you know, you come to love. The more you know the Shastra, the more you come to love the Shastra. The more you know the Sadguru, the more you come to love the Sadguru. It is only when we have this knowing that we love the preparation and the process enough to practice dhyana or contemplation. But if we don't know enough, we can't love enough. This is where people become complacent. This is where people stop because they don't know enough. There's not enough love for sadhana. They love sleeping more than waking up. Without the Shastra and Sadguru, we will never know dhyana enough, and so we will never love dhyana enough, and so we will never experience that oneness. But if you do know enough and you do love enough, that external process is a check, you get to the internal process. And the internal process is relax the body, enjoy the breath, chant with the mind, inquire with the intellect, observe the ego. And if all of these are done fully, what are we experiencing then? Being. Just be. Where there's no movement, there is no change, there is no effort. We're just being, existence, awareness, joy. Last week I was going to give you 3 words, 3 letters to remember these words, but I lost track and I remembered afterwards. If you think of what the inner process of contemplation is, relax, enjoy, chant, inquire, observe, this is simple, isn't it? Most of our professions, most of our errands, most of the meals we cook are more complex than these 5 verbs. But difficult. Who actually even knows how to relax their body? Who actually chants Bhagwan's name like they want to be with Bhagwan, not mechanically? Difficult. And our focus tends to be on the difficult, so we slow down or stop. And so I'd like to introduce the 3rd word that we have to shift our focus to, and that is worthwhile. Dhyana is simple, dhyana is difficult, and dhyana is worthwhile. If we shift our focus away from difficult to worthwhile, we'll keep going. We will experience what I'm going to talk about now. Being is being all. If you are being your family, you're being your friends, you're being strangers, you're being animals, you're being plants, you're being stones. There's only one being. And throughout Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna describes the vision and lifestyle of those who are being. We study this in chapter 2, the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. Someone who's being, how do they think? How did they sit? Sorry, how did they speak? How did they sit? How did they walk? Throughout Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan describes this. And in chapter 6, he does too. Now, why does Bhagavan keep coming back to the vision and lifestyle of someone who's being? Because the more we know this, the more we will love this. The more we know that someone who's being is not shaken in heavy sorrow, doesn't that inspire you to want to be the same? Finances can't rattle us like someone passing away, yes? That's the heavy sorrow. Imagine being bigger than that. For someone who's being, they are. So here are two qualities of someone who's being. The first is they live by equality. They live by equality. Now I want you to think about this. We use this word so often, especially in the workplace, correct? Workplace equality, pay equality, education equality. What is equality? Equality is equal. Equality doesn't mean the same. Equality means equal. And I was thinking about this numerically. 4/5 and 80% are not the same. They are equal, but one is a fraction, one is a percentage. And you may not think that's such a profound example, but it makes sense to me. So you come up with your own example. But I really want you to think more about equality. Don't just let this be a word. And Bhagavan Krishna is talking about living by equality when it comes to articles, when it comes to stuff. Swami Tejomayananda writes, one's manasthiti is not dependent on one's parasthiti. Manasthiti is the balance of the mind. The positioning of the mind is not dependent on the balance of the circumstances, the position of the circumstances. Not dependent. We've been studying this for so long to be independent, and now we're just adding more clarity to that. Guruji continues to write, all articles have an objective value. This pen has an objective value, this notebook has an objective value, this laptop has an objective value, this house has an objective value. But someone who is living by equality, someone who has the vision and lifestyle of being, they don't let that objective value filter into subjective value. Objects have objective value, not subjective value. And someone who doesn't have this vision doesn't have a lifestyle that matches, correct? They're perpetually dependent on circumstance. I've shared with you many times, what is the difference between materials and materialism? Dependency. You're all in homes right now. You're all using Wi-Fi and various forms of technology. Those are materials. But if you depend on that for being, for ananda, that's materialism then. So someone with this vision and lifestyle is not materialistic. That works for you? So they live by equality. Now some of us are thinking, yeah, we're already like that. I think Bhagavan's writing about me. So then he brings in, they don't just live by equality, they live by empathy. So now he stopped writing about you, correct? Here's how empathy looks. When we are separate, our present condition, we feel my joy should be your joy. My joy should be your joy. My joy of going to a movie should be your joy. My joy of getting a promotion, how come you're not happy for me? That's your joy too. Separation. But for someone who lives by empathy, when they are united with the person across from them, they feel your joy is mine. Your joy is mine. So if you get the promotion, I feel happy. When your child is healthy, I feel happy. Live by empathy. That is not, it is simple, yet difficult, yet worthwhile. This live by equality, live by empathy is an intense and grand subject, which is beyond us just having 15 minutes of thought on this. This is best expressed in shlokas 8 and 9 of chapter 6. Shloka 8 and 9. And you know what's fascinating? The technique on contemplation begins in shloka 10. So Bhagavan Krishna is so wonderfully teaching Arjuna that if you learn how to contemplate, this is how your relationship with articles will be. This is how your relationship with beings will be. So now learn how to contemplate. For those who are not going to read shlokas 8 and 9, I actually did a retreat, and one of the discourses was just on this shloka, and the retreat's name was Dharmic Living with the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And so if you go to Google or any search engine and type in Live Vedanta Dharmic Living, Live Vedanta Dharmic Living, you'll find that talk where the whole discourse is just on how to live empathetically with different kinds of people. And the summary of that talk is someone who's living by empathy accepts all. They accept all and they respect all. Accept and respect. See, the acceptance here is that all are equal. The respect is all are not the same. The way you speak to your mother cannot be the way you speak to your father. The way you speak to your sibling is not the way you can speak to your cousin. Correct? To accept all and to respect all. So accepting is very fundamental and respecting is very functional. All that we've thought about thus far, many of us may feel this is impossible. And Arjuna did too. He told Bhagavan Krishna, everything you've shared is motivating, but I don't think I can follow this. And Bhagavan Krishna tells him 2 ways to make impossible and turn it into is possible. From impossible to is possible. And those 2 strategies are, the first one you already know, abhyasa. What does abhyasa mean? Practice. If you don't practice, of course this will be impossible, but if you do practice, this will start to become is possible. Now as we practice, the difficulty will arise. So Bhagavan says vairagya. Vairagya here means prioritization. As you continue on your journey, there's going to be different difficulties that arise. Keep prioritizing the journey and your practice will be sustained. But if you don't prioritize, the world will come and slow our journey or stop our journey. So, practice and prioritization, abhyasa and vairagya. See, our mind's nature is not agitation. Almost all of the shastras, all of the texts that you study will say otherwise. But if your mind's nature was agitation, you would never experience quietude. Everyone here has experienced some sort of quietude in their life. Through nature, through love. You would never be able to sleep then. And I know we find it difficult to sleep, but we do finally fall asleep. But if your mind's nature was to be agitated, how would that be possible? See, we've just practiced and prioritized the other way for so long. Now we have to practice and prioritize the inner way. We have to engage in dhyana rather than asana, pranayama. When I read section 618 to 621, I experienced a sense of empathy for all of you that this course is demanding. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot in the questionnaires also. I read as much as you read, but I don't have to. I don't have to submit any questionnaires. And I won't even comment on that. I'll just press pause in my mind on that. I was also thinking that you actually don't need to read any other scriptures, though. There is such profundity in this course that you do not need to read or engage in any other sadhana but to be steady and sincere with the Bhagavad Gita course. What Bhagavan Krishna shared through Puja Swami Tejamananda is surreal. This will take us past Brahmaloka if we bring our steadiness and sincerity. To wrap up this chapter, we shift to 622 to 625. Arjuna is going on and on and on with the impossibility of what Bhagavan has shared. And these impossibilities happen in 4 ways. Those 4 ways are identification, justification, condemnation, and evasion. The mind is there, and when we identify with the mind, where is the mind going to take us? Inside or outside? The mind is created extrovert. Of course this will take us towards articles, towards beings. Yes? Justification. Acharya Gaurang had shared that we all have PhDs. What do we have PhDs in? Justification. We will all justify our positions to the end. And even as we're dying, we'll still, as we're dying, say, I told you so, or you were wrong. We all will justify our position. And really, our justification tends to be an egotistical position, isn't it? Because why would you have to justify that? You only have to apologize generally if you've made a mistake, generally. So that justification itself shows the presence of ego. Identification, justification, condemnation. We keep talking about hating the mind, that the mind is an animal, the mind is a child, the mind is this, the mind is that. How many of you have seen the movie It, the new version of the movie It? Okay. We think that this is a horror movie, but if you have seen it and you've studied the characters, all of the people, all of the kids in It, they all had useless parents. Useless parents who didn't raise their children well, and so all of their children were afraid. I don't find it to be a horror movie. I actually find it to be a sociological or a parental movie. When a child is condemned again and again and again, does that child's confidence break? Doesn't that child start to condemn others then? If you study the patterns of bullies, their parents, if you take a teenage bully, their parents are probably bullies, no? Swami Tejamananda, he just one-on-one has told me that we can say whatever we want to say about the mind, but you still have to go through the mind to reach the self. That is a most practical form of guidance. And the 4th is evasion. And here too we are experts in this. We evade facing our mind through excess work, excess exercise, excess drinking, drugs, socializing, materializing, whatever it is. Bhagavan Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, yes, you're telling me all of these reasons that this is impossible, but there are no tricks. There are no tricks to bringing the body to the breath to the mind to the intellect to the ego to the self. This is dhyana. This is the journey, whether you like it or not. I've heard many, many, many times there is no substitute for hard work. Correct? There's no substitute to hard work for losing weight. No substitute for hard work to maintaining healthy relationships. And this is the hardest work. So there's certainly no substitute. So Bhagavan says, keep being dharmic. A dharmic person integrates. They keep integrating the outer self with the inner self. The preparation keeps leading to the process. And the more dharmic we are, the more sensitive we will be to suffering. Any suffering coming from within, we will not forbear that. Complacency should pierce our heart. Then why didn't I try? I can be better. And whatever else you're experiencing, but complacency cannot be a place where we live if we are sadhakas. Many people would be thinking, I went through college and now I'm working, maybe I'm a grandparent, I've built this house, and there was a start time and there was an end time to everything that we've taken up in the world. But everything we've taken up in the world is limited by space, time, and matter. When it comes to integration, dharma to Brahma, we have to unlearn our relationship with space, time, and matter. Unlearn the idea that sadhana only happens in your home. Relax, enjoy, chant, inquire, observe. You should be doing this everywhere. I do this when I drive, I do this when I run, I do this when I shower. Whenever I'm doing that which doesn't require my full attention, vacuuming at the ashram as an example, then I practice dhyana. Space, time. This is not just to be practiced in the morning, and if you sleep in, then you can't do this. Matter. Whether it's hot outside, cold outside, there's class, there's no class. Unlearn all of this. And a great way to unlearn this is to ask yourself, what is success? What is suffering? Our ideas of success and suffering are extremely worldly. And the more you question success and suffering, we'll realize that success is extremely relative, and suffering is all because of my own doing. Now, what if I was a vicious person in the past, a papi, and now I'm in the Bhagavad Gita course and what I did is going to catch up with me? What am I supposed to do? I can't evade. In the course, Swami Tejomayananda writes, good actions do not cancel the results of bad actions. Good actions do not cancel the results of bad actions. That's a very karma kanda like thought. I did this wrong, so I'm going to go and donate this money. I did this wrong, so I'm going to cross my hands like this and rub my ears and, start bowing my head in front of Bhagavan Ganesha. Very karma kanda. Good actions help us face bad results better. So the good actions we do today, those bad results are coming, but you'll be stronger physically, mentally to face them. And as Prince Arjuna is hearing this, he takes us to the extreme. For the first time, Prince Arjuna is questioning not the death of Bhishma or Drona, he's questioning his own death now. Remember in chapter 1, he says, what's the point in enjoying the kingdom if this will be stained by the blood of my family? Here he brings in his own death and asks Bhagavan Krishna, fine, I'm afraid. You've taught me to not be afraid. I want to have the vision and lifestyle of being. You've taught me that. I feel this is impossible. You've shared this is possible. I'm used to worldly space-time matter. You've told me to unlearn worldly space-time matter. What if this body dies? This body is still in space-time matter. Then what happens? Like, what is the point of me trying all of this if this will all be erased when there's no Arjuna? Now, there's some really young people in this class who maybe haven't seen people die before. And it doesn't have to do with age specifically. So for us, Maybe not death, but distraction. Okay? What if I'm in the Bhagavad Gita course and I'm distracted, Until 8:59, I'm there, but at 9 o'clock, the Rakshasas come. Vivekji, you've said the Rakshasas come. And my fortress is open to all Rakshasas. So what if I get distracted? Then what happens? So Bhagavan Krishna says, if someone is Rajasic, 50%, and Sattvic, 50%. Rajasic, Sattvic, okay? If you take Navaratri, that means they're in between Mother Lakshmi and Mother Saraswati. When such a person dies, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe. They will be born into a house of those who are Shuchi. Shuchi means pure. And Shri here means prosperous. So a family that is pure and prosperous. And I'll just highlight the prosperous part. If you're born into a home of prosperity, then you tend to have more time to focus on sadhana, correct? For many, it's a luxury, no? If you are hungry right now and you don't know where your next meal is, it'll be quite difficult for you to think about moksha. Just for us to feel grateful that we have this opportunity. And Bhagavan says, Arjuna, if you are 100% sattvic, so 50% and 50%, you are in Navaratri, you're with Mother Saraswati. Yoginam dhimatam kule. Your kula will be filled with yogis, filled with those who are dhi. So yogis, we know, are people who are near yoga, that vision. Dhi means their intellect is brilliant. They're not focusing on enjoying the breath or chanting with the mind. They're deeper into dhyana. So if you're born into a house, are those parents going to tell you, waste your time doing this, waste your time becoming that? They'll say, hey, do exactly what we're doing. When Bhagavan Krishna shares this, you should think about your parents. You should think about your house. Where were you born? And that will give you an idea of whether we're Rajasic Sattvic or Sattvic Sattvic. And you should also think about what kind of home are you creating for your kids who will have other kids. No? And so Bhagavan Krishna's final message to Arjuna is Tasmad yogi bhava Arjuna. Arjuna, be a yogi. So you are not one now, but be a yogi. Just try. And if you can be a yogi, if you are that bhava, then chapter 7 begins. And with the completion of chapter 6, there is a completion of one thought of Srimad Bhagavad Gita where the focus is on Tvam, on Prince Arjuna. And the next 6 chapters, 7 through 12, no longer focus on Prince Arjuna. They focus on Tat, on Bhagavan Krishna. So you see, Prince Arjuna, if you can get to that bhava, if you can become that yogi, really the next 6 chapters are about now who you will be, which is Bhagavan. Narayana.